It takes the same amount of time in real estate to close one deal as it does maybe like 100 deals. Purchase price to rent ratio. That's one of the biggest things that dictates a feasible market versus a market that's not feasible.
I realize too is it's actually easier to go every day than it is to go like
Yeah, 100%.
because if you go once in a while, you're like that becomes a disruption of your daily thing. But when you make that your daily routine, it's just like something you do. You wake up, go to the gym, you go to jiu-jitsu, whatever you do.
You could either learn from like one of two ways. You either learn from your mistakes, or you learn from other people's mistakes. And I'm a big advocate of learning from other people's mistakes because it's cheaper and it's quicker.
I think the best way to learn something is one-on-one. The best way to learn something, first of all, is to have a mentor. But a type of mentorship, like a one-on-one mentorship, is really so valuable. Welcome back to another episode of the A-Lister Show. We're bringing movers and shakers, people doing interesting things, and today's guest's no different. Today, I've got with me Karim Naoum from Section 8 Trading. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. I'd like to start off with a little bit of like a credibility builder.
Of course, man.
I think, Karim rolled up in a Rolls Royce truck, so there's some credibility right there. But tell us about some of the results you've had, what you've accomplished, and then we'll get into like your story to start.
Of course, man. I'm 23 years old. I own 153 Section 8 rentals.
Wow.
I used to work for Section 8 at the age of 17. I interned there for about 6 months, and then ever since then, scaled my portfolio, mentor students. At the moment, over 2,000 clients I've worked with successfully. It's pretty much what I do. Obviously, social media as well, teaching people how to get into it, how to buy their first rental property sub $10,000 down.
Okay. All right, hang on. So 153 Section 8 rental properties.
Correct.
Taking back the time that you bought your first Section 8 rental property, what was that like?
Yeah, man. Louisiana. It's a city called Laplace, Louisiana, actually. I used to live in New Orleans. I just moved to San Diego about 2 years ago, but I used to live in New Orleans. My first property was $50,000. I put $5,000 down, completely seller finance, because obviously I was 17 years old. You're not going to be able to work with a bank at 17 years old. $5K down. The seller held pretty much the entire loan. And I was able to essentially just scale from there and utilize other people's money.
Did you have 17 years old and bought your first property?
Yeah.
Did you have to have like your parents sign for the contract?
No. So a lot of people think you had to be 18 to buy your first deal, but you actually don't.
Wow.
You could do it under an LLC at 17 and you could sign it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you even hear about that?
Well, like I said, I used to intern for Section 8. So that's kind of where I learned the entire process, the ins and outs of it. I met a lot of other landlords who I saw had, 50, 100 rental properties. I was like, damn, they're getting guaranteed income every single month, regardless of what happens in the economy or regardless of what happens with the financial climate. This is something that could, really change my life.
Yeah. So, where did you bought, how did you find that first property, for example? Let's take a step back for a second. What is a Section 8 rental property?
The Section 8 rental property, we'll start with what Section 8 specifically. Section 8 is a program for low-income individuals who make 50% of pretty much the average median income in a given area. Okay? The government will come in and they'll subsidize their rent every single month. So they'll basically pay their rent anywhere from 70 to 100% of the rent every single month. And basically what I do is I provide housing for those individuals and the government goes ahead and pays me the rent directly. So the tenant doesn't touch it. It comes directly to my bank account. So that's what it looks like.
And what's the benefit of that compared to a traditional rental property?
So if you think about what happened during COVID, right? Landlords were not getting paid. A lot of individuals defaulted on their mortgage. Number one, I'm getting guaranteed rent. So it's coming from the government, right? So I never have to worry about late payments, any of that stuff. Number two, your rents are going to be anywhere from 10 to 30% above market rents because they have to incentivize landlords to rent to Section 8 tenants because there's a stigma surrounded by Section 8. Hey, they could be bad people, whatever the case may be. So they incentivize landlords. And on top of that, your average tenant stays in a house for about 7.5 years. Okay, versus your average market tenant stays in a house for right around maybe 2 years, 2.5 years. So they're saying 3 times as long. Your retention rate is much higher.
Yeah. So you have almost guaranteed income from the government, essentially.
Guaranteed income, yeah.
And they stay for a lot longer.
Correct.
And it sounds like they're probably pretty easy to find because they're not even using their own money, right?
Correct. So in terms of finding them, I mean, there's multiple different websites where you can find a Section 8 tenant. Like you can go on a website right now called affordablehousing.com, list your property, and probably get it rented out within a few weeks to a Section 8 tenant that's going to be paying you above market value. It's going to come directly from the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went from your first property at 17, and somehow, some way, now you have 153.
Correct.
So walk me through what that journey was like.
Yeah, man. So for me specifically, it really came down to like raising capital, being super creative ideas. A lot of people look at rental properties and they're like, hey, I'm not going to be able to get my first rental unless I have $100,000. So let me just keep saving and saving and saving. But really, it comes down to being creative and getting started. So if you look at these markets like Akron, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, New Orleans, Louisiana, these markets that nobody looks at, there are properties that are turnkey, ready to go for $100,000 right now that you could buy on the MLS. Okay, so you don't necessarily need that much money to buy your first rental. You just need to know where to look, how to rent them out, how the process works, and really just get started. Mm-hmm. So it's really not that hard to be able to scale, and especially if you're doing seller financing. Like that first deal that I closed on was $50,000. Completely seller finance. I put $5,000 down. I mean, $5,000 is not that much money. You can liquidate a credit card and get $5,000 right now. You know what I'm saying?
So for that one, for example, let's talk about that first one that got you rid of this whole thing. When you pay the $5,000, what are you getting on rent on something like that?
It could be anywhere. It depends on the market, obviously. I mean, because there's Section 8 all around the U.S. If you have a Section 8 rental, San Francisco or San Diego, you're going to be getting a few $1,000s a month. But a Section 8 rental in maybe New Orleans is going to only get you about $1,200 to maybe $1,600 a month. But it really comes down to your, purchase price to rent ratio. That's one of the biggest things that dictates a feasible market versus a market that's not feasible. What is your purchase price? And then what is your rent?
Yeah. Why do you think people aren't doing this more? Why do you think it's stopping people from doing this?
Lack of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people just, like I said, there's a lot of stigma surrounded by Section 8. So people think about, hey, these are going to be bad tenants. Another big thing is people think that you need a lot of money to buy your first rental. People think that the financing is super difficult. People get scared when they hear, oh shit, I got to set up an LLC. I got to start a business, whatever the case may be. So a lot of factors that come into it. And a lot of people think that you need tax returns. A lot of people think that you need real estate experience to buy your first rental, which is not the case. You could literally buy your first rental right now with $8,000 to $12,000 down. You can get a DSCR loan, which doesn't require you to have any tax history, real estate experience, and you could put 15 or 20% down on a property that's under 100 G's.
Yeah.
So a lot of things like hold people back just because lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now you help people kind of
correct
figure this out for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious, like, what is one of the characteristics you see when somebody comes into your program? You know that this person's gonna like be a success and go on to do great things and be a success in your program. What are some of the characteristics that they show?
I mean, honestly, one of the biggest things is just like, hey, when I work with a client, they're booking multiple calls with me. They're showing up. They're actively picking out the properties that I'm sending them weekly. They're consistently shooting out offers. Those are key characteristics that, hey, this individual is going to be successful with this. Because the thing about real estate is it's pretty much like any other business. It's a numbers game, right? So the more offers you submit, the more houses you're going to get under contract, the more properties you're going to close, the higher your cash flow is. Okay. So if you think about it like that and you put it into perspective, just like any other business, it's just about making more offers. And another big thing is it takes the same amount of time in real estate to close one deal as it does maybe like 100 deals. You can literally close one deal or 100 single family house portfolio, and it takes pretty much the same amount of time.
What do you mean by that?
Like you could go on, for example, like investorlift.com right now, and you could sort portfolios and you could find a portfolio right now of 100 single family houses, maybe Memphis, Tennessee. Okay. And it'll take you the same amount of time to close on that portfolio as it will maybe just a single family house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So scaling is not something that's super difficult. You could do multiple deals at the same time.
Is that one of the ways you're able to get so many properties? Is
Yeah, 100%.
new portfolios?
Yeah. It allows you to just bulk them all up. It's one closing. It's one realtor you're dealing with. It's one title company. It makes the process a lot easier.
Yeah. What's something that you're looking for when you try and decide whether a deal is going to be good or not?
Yeah, so for me, obviously, choosing the right location. One of the biggest things is, like I said initially, purchase price to rent ratio. So choosing a location where you have a purchase price of sub $100,000 and your rent is anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a month. That's one of the first things you got to look at, because if there's not properties sub $100,000, you can't invest in that area. Number two is, does this specific area have Section 8 vouchers, right? So do they have Section 8 tenants that are ready right now to rent a property? Okay. The third thing is, I like to use a couple different filters when I'm choosing properties. Like, I like to look at properties under 1,500 square feet, for example, because they require less maintenance. I like to look at properties that are newer than 1950. I'll only look at properties that are 3 bedrooms plus. So these are like key specific things that I'll look at to determine whether or not the property is feasible.
What are some of the mistakes that you made when you were going through your journey?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's a lot of mistakes that I made initially, just like any other real estate investor, like maybe choosing the wrong area, buying properties for the wrong price points, things like that. Like I used to do like burrs, for example. Like I would buy, renovate a property and then rent it out. They just take a lot of time. I would try to flip properties, which just wasted a lot of my time for little return. So, I mean, that's one thing. In terms of like Section 8 specifically, maybe, like I said, I used to work for Section 8, so I already knew about the process, like in detail in terms of that. But maybe just like choosing the wrong tenants.
Yeah.
You know, if you end up with the wrong tenant and you don't have a good screening process, it can cost you thousands of dollars. And that's why people come to me and try to work with me in my, in our mentorship, just because we teach people exactly how to screen the tenants. We already have property managers set up. We already have the locations that are feasible for Section 8. We already have the inventory that we send out. So we save a lot of time for our clients.
Yeah. So talking about the tenants, so I remember, so you mentioned that there's a stigma a little bit about it. I mean, and it's because it's the low income. Maybe they don't have the means to take care of the property. So what are the tenants like, and how do you avoid nightmares?
So, I mean, look, if you think about a Section 8 tenant, they're just like any other tenant, right? They're just normal individuals, but these people make less than average incomes. Okay, so they're not like special individuals. They're not like individuals that have felonies, whatever the case may be. And they actually get screened from Section 8 to ensure, if they actually qualify for the program. In order to qualify, you need to not have, I guess like crazy things on your record. Okay, so straight off the bat, they're just normal individuals. But in terms of how to avoid nightmares, I mean, for me and my property managers, like we'll look at specific things. So we'll have my property manager literally go into the tenant's property. We'll ask to have like a tour of their current property to see, how are they treating their current property before they move into ours? Because if we go into their property and it's a shit show, then that's going to be a clear indicator that they're not going to necessarily treat our property, I guess you could say good.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any crazy stories from maybe before you learned what you learn now?
I mean, look, there's always going to be crazy stories. At scale, there's always shit that's going to go on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had tenants burn a property down.
Really?
Yeah. Like, it was a $70,000 house, for example.
Was it on accident or on purpose?
It was on accident. I mean, I guess it was on accident. I would hope so, at least. I don't think.
You never know. Sometimes
you never know. I don't think they would do it on purpose, but it was like a $70,000 property. The replacement value on the property was $150,000. So although I paid,
you burned it down.
No, they come get checked for like close to $150,000. You know what I'm saying? I paid $70,000 for the house, and I still own the land.
So you had like insurance on that to take care of that then.
Of course, yeah, you have insurance. So like if there's a natural disaster, like hurricane, whatever the case may be, flooding, there's insurance for all these specific things to cover your ass just in case something does pop up. Just like a car, right? If you have an issue, right, you hit somebody or somebody hits you, you have insurance.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what is it that you cover in your program? Like, why would somebody kind of come to you and try to work with you instead of working on?
Yeah, I mean, look, people come to me to save time, energy, and effort because we streamline the entire thing. It's pretty much everything that you could possibly. Well, think about it like this, right? People come to me in the entire process to, number one, get educated, right? Because they don't know what Section 8 is. They don't know how the process works. I used to work at Section 8. I'm obviously at scale, okay? They come in, we help them get their LLC set up. We get them pre-qualified with the lenders that you're probably not going to be able to find in the public, okay? We send them active inventory every single week. We help them structure the deal, okay? We tell them exactly what to submit in terms of the offers on the deal. We get the inspection ordered for them. Okay, after the inspection comes in, we set them up with a property manager that we've already pre-vetted out. Okay, obviously, we choose the location for them based off their specific goals. So a lot of people don't necessarily know where to invest in, right? We already do all that due diligence on the front end. That way, instead of taking a process that could take you 1 to 2 years and tens of thousands of dollars in mistakes, we cut it down to 8 weeks. So 92% of our current clients close on their first property in under 8 weeks with under $15,000 down per deal. Okay. So basically, you're cutting your timeline, something that could take you a few years, into under 8 weeks. So everything's streamlined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's the potential if somebody were to start investing in Section 8 properties? Like, how much money can you make? How much money do you make?
Yeah, man. So each property is going to cost you anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000. You're going to put maybe anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 down per deal, and you're going to net anywhere from $500 to $800 a month.
Okay.
So you have above, 25-30% cash on cash return, which is pretty much unheard of.
So if I'm at like 100 properties, I could be in like $80K a month.
If you're at you conservatively anywhere from $50K to $80K a month. Yeah.
Okay. What about like tax benefits? Is there any?
Of course, man. I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons people do invest into real estate, just because there's major tax cuts, and a lot of my students save like tens of thousands of dollars a year on their active income just from buying these properties, because ultimately there's something called bonus depreciation that Trump just brought back. He brought back 100% bonus depreciation, which basically means you could depreciate somewhere around 33 to 40% of the property's total value in 1 year. Okay, so if you have a $100,000 property, right, you could quite literally depreciate, let's call it $35,000 in the first year. Okay, so if you made $35,000 on your active income, let's just say you basically qualify to be a real estate professional, you could knock that off of your active income.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's just one deal. So if you buy 10 properties, you could basically write off $350,000.
This is something that you could do in addition to what you're currently doing for your job, for example. Doesn't have to be a full-time thing.
Correct.
And then if you did that, it would actually reduce the amount of money.
Well, you have to qualify to be a real estate professional if you have an active income to
right.
do
We're not tax people, y'all. So we're just talking and hypothetical. So one other thing that's interesting, I know a lot of people are like, I live in San Diego, and the average house is like $1 million here. But a lot of people get stuck in thinking that they have to invest in their own backyard. Is that the case?
The vast majority of my clients are not in the states that they're investing in. So like pretty much everybody in my program does this completely virtually. A lot of my clients are in California. A lot of my clients are, Miami, New York. Obviously, they're not going to be buying $1 million rental properties in San Diego and cash flow. You're going to be negative on cash flow for anything in California, pretty much anything in Miami, anything in New York. You're banking on appreciation, which is speculation, right? Versus with these properties, you can do it completely virtually. I've never been to Ohio, by the way. I own over 50 properties there, just to kind of give you some insight. We already have our property managers completely set up in these cities That way, you don't have to step a foot into the property. We already have the inspections on standby. We already have the realtors already set up in these cities. That way, you could be relaxed in your current city, do the closing completely virtually via Zoom, and you're good to go. You just wire the funds and get your first deal.
Yeah. I think people don't really realize that. They're like, oh, you're buying a house without ever actually seeing it.
Well, the thing is, you got to think about it like this. Like, why wouldn't you? Right? So, like, if a plumbing issue popped up, right? And I always give this analogy. If a plumbing issue popped up and the property is 10 minutes away from you or 10 hours away from you, are you going to be the individual that's going to go onto the property and fix the plumbing issue? So what are you going to do?
We're
going to call a plumber. Yeah, you're going to call your property manager or you're going to call a plumber. So either way, either side of the spectrum, you're not going to see the property.
Right.
You're making a phone call. So why would it matter if it's right next to you or if it's 10 hours away? People just want to have a tangible object that they can go and touch. But this is a business, right? This is not like something that you need to go see. You don't need to meet your tenants, right? The objective here is to make money. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
And to not have to do the extra work. Not have to, you don't want to have.
I don't want to see the properties. I don't want to meet the tenants. Like, I just want to make money from these deals, provide quality housing, and have passive income. Like, I'm not interested in going to touch the property and meet the tenants. Mm-hmm. That's not what I'm looking to do.
Yeah. So, did you go to college?
I didn't finish college. No.
So at some point, do you just like this was coming like you need momentum in your business and you just said we're done?
Yeah, man. Like, I come from a Middle Eastern household. I always talk about this in my family. It's like, oh, you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer, whatever the case may be. But I just couldn't finish. I was just making money and I wanted to focus on my business. And then at that point, I was like close to starting social media as well. And it just didn't make sense for me to continue college. Like, I was making more than like my professors. And it's like, I always think about it like this. I went to a university from New Orleans. It's like, how is a teacher that's teaching me, I guess, business that doesn't run it? How are they going to teach me business if they don't run a business? That's how I thought about it. It just never clicked to me.
Yeah.
It never made sense.
Yeah. And so you were running the business while you were actively in college, right?
Yeah.
And so what was it like balancing those two?
I mean, I pretty much did college like completely virtually, so it didn't matter. It was not that much work in college. I remember I had a couple classes, like I had a bunch of credits too. I could have graduated if I wanted to. I maybe had like a semester or two left. The thing was, I left like all the hard classes for the end, and then I left all the in-person classes and labs until the last few semesters. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm not going in person. And at that time, I was just like, all right, let me just take a break. And the break turned into an extended break.
Yeah. Is it hard work what you do? Would you consider it?
Not really, man. I mean, for me personally, I've set everything up that way. I'm like an investor in the back end. Like, my property managers know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I already have realtors on standby that send me deals weekly. I have realtors that submit offers for me as well. Mm-hmm. You know, they look at the properties, they submit the offers. Obviously, we're running the numbers with them. I have weekly Zoom, stuff like that. But in terms of what I do specifically, it's not a lot of work for me. Like, I streamline the process. That way, I'm just the investor in the back end. Let's call it maybe 8 to 12 hours a week of work.
What are some of the successes your clients have had at your progress?
Yeah, man. So, like, we've worked, like I said, with over 2,000 students at this point. Wow. Over 92% success rate that they close on their first property in sub 8 weeks. But we've worked with all types of individuals, anywhere from, somebody that's just in their 9 to 5. They want to have more time. They want to have more access to passive income so they can do what they want, spend some more time with their family, to individuals that are, UFC fighters. Like Henry Cejudo, for example. He joined our program. He's now at like 20 plus properties, cash flowing over 10 G's a month. So it's pretty much, it's a wide variety of individuals that we've worked with, and, ultimately helps scale.
Yeah. What's your goal with this business? Like, what are you trying to do next?
For me, I honestly just continue scaling my portfolio, obviously working on social media as well, and just really help as many clients as I can. Mm-hmm. Just scale and take it to that next level.
And are you still buying properties?
Of course, man. I buy properties like weekly. I'm working on a 83 single family house portfolio. Like, at this point, I don't necessarily like doing like one or two at a time. Like I'll just knock out 50 or 100 just to kind of move quicker.
Yeah. What's the difference in a deal that you get like one or two and one that you get like 40 or 50?
It's not bad. Like obviously when somebody comes into my program and they only have $10 or $20,000, right? You're gonna have to start with one or two, build a foundation. We connect you with the property manager. We choose the location for you. We help you cash flow. We get everything up and running. Right. But once you really want to scale, it's actually easier to close on those 5 and 10 house portfolios because there's less buyers. There's less people with money that are tackling those deals. You know what I'm saying? Additionally, your closing costs end up getting cut because it's bulk. You can negotiate with the title companies and get your fees lower. You can negotiate with your realtor, get the fees lower. So there's a lot of things. You can negotiate with the seller additionally because you're buying bulk, right? You get a better deal. So there's a lot of different things that go into place with a portfolio.
What about financing for portfolios?
It's similar. I mean, you're probably either you could be at 10% down, you could be at 15% down, you do 20% down. I've closed a portfolio in Louisiana with $0 down.
Wow.
Seller finance. So there's all types of deals you could end up doing in terms of portfolios. If you want to just do, like I said, DSCR, which is debt service coverage ratio, which doesn't require you to have, a job or real estate experience, you could put 15 or 20% down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So most these days, are you doing mostly seller financing, or do you do?
I do both. I do traditional, with DSCR, and I do seller financing. It just comes down to, what is the seller open to and what gets presented to me.
Yeah. You prefer to do seller financing if you can?
I would like to, yeah. I like doing seller financing. Like I have my own software that I provide to my clients that literally has hundreds of seller financing deals under $100,000 that you can get into with as little as $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 down.
Do you have a specific goal as far as how many doors, how many properties you want to achieve? Is there a time when you're like, okay?
The thing is, and I'm sure you know this, once you get into business and you make $5K a month, right? Like I just want to get my first $5K, I'm going to be happy. You get to $5K and you're like, fuck, that's not a lot of money. Then you get to $10K, you're like, all right, well, let me just see if I can get to 20. You get to 20, you're like, what's another 20 grand? I can get to 50. So you just want to continuously scale and scale and scale. And you don't necessarily have a cap on it. I mean, I would like to be at $1 million a month in passive income. That's the goal. And then I'm sure when I get to that point, I'm going to be like, all right, well, let me get to 5.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no cap.
Yeah.
And I'm only 23 at this point. So by the time I hit, 25 or 30 years old, I know that I'm just going to continuously take it to the next level.
Yeah. Well, what about hitting like $1 million per month? That's interesting to you. Like what happens with you when you get that?
You just have more freedom.
What does your life look like at that point?
More freedom, man. Like at some point, maybe I don't know. I was thinking about even if I get to that point, which I'm sure I will, but just maybe live in Spain, maybe live in Europe. I don't even know. Travel a lot. I already travel a lot, but maybe move to a different country.
How often do you think about what you're doing it all for?
What do I do it all for?
Yeah. Is something you think about, or right now you're just focused on a growth?
What I did it all for initially was just because, like I said, for me as an entrepreneur, pretty much any entrepreneur doesn't like to have a boss, right? You like to be your own boss, right? You control what you do. You control, how your day goes. And I like having my routine that I wake up, I hit the gym, I make a few phone calls, to realtors. I speak to my property managers. I speak to my mentees for a few hours. I go to jiu-jitsu, I come back home, and then I could just chill. You know what I'm saying? So I like having the routine of just being able to do what I want, when I want, travel when I want. Like the other day, literally a few days ago, I have a bunch of good friends who also own a lot of real estate. We woke up and they're like, all right, you guys want to go to New York tonight? And we just bought a ticket and left. And that was that. You could basically do whatever you want, whenever you want, which is the cool thing about having passive income. You're not tied down to, hey, I got to wake up today. And if I don't show up to work, I'm fucked. Right? Yeah. You can control your own time, which is one of the most I would say, in my opinion, is probably one of the most powerful things that you could have. Doing what you want when you want without having, any major consequences.
Yeah. What's it like being a 23-year-old with a bunch of money for the ladies? You got a girlfriend?
No, not currently.
Okay. All right. Cool. You date at all?
Um, Not actively, man. I mean, I talk to, some people, some girls here and there, but
You're like all business right now.
I try to lock in, man. I feel like it's too distracting for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't like getting attached.
Yeah, definitely is. And I used to think when I got married, I'm married for like almost 10 years now, 8 years with that shit. I better know. It's been 8 years I've been married, and like I used to think when I was a young kid, I was like, oh, the marriage can, a girl takes up a lot of your time. But now what I realized is that when you have a right partner and a right girl, it actually helps you level up in life.
No, I think so too. I mean, the thing for me is like I travel a lot. You know what I'm saying? I like to go places. I'm still young. I like to go out, and I don't know if they like that.
It's hard.
It's
hard. Yeah, for sure. So what impact has like fitness and jujitsu and the gym had on your productivity and your ability to grow as a business?
I think it just builds like a routine. I think a routine is extremely important. So that's why, like, I go to the gym every single day. I go to the gym Monday to Friday. I go to jiu-jitsu maybe 3 to 4 times a week, and then I go to like a private as well. So it just builds that discipline that you need. I mean, discipline is one of the most important things in your life. If you don't have discipline, it's very hard to become successful. So it builds a discipline that whenever I first started jiu-jitsu, it was like, fuck, I don't think I could do this anymore, right? And then you do it again, you're like, all right, it's not as bad. And then you do it for a month, you're like, all right, let me just keep going. But it's just pushing through. And although your mind doesn't want to do it and your body probably still doesn't want to do it, you just keep doing it anyway. You just keep showing up. And I think that's what it's all about. Just keep pushing through. Mm-hmm. And you've done jiu-jitsu for a while. I mean, what do you think about it?
That's it. I mean, that's it. What I realized too is it's actually easier to go every day than it is to go like
100%.
Because if you go once in a while, you're like that becomes a disruption of your daily thing. But when you make that your daily routine, it's just like something you do. You wake up, go to the gym, you go to jiu-jitsu, whatever you do.
100%. I used to do like BJJ like 2 times a week. And for whatever reason, it was just harder. When I only do it Tuesday and Thursday, I would just be like, fuck, I don't want to go. Mm-hmm. But when I started doing 3-4 times a week, it just becomes part of your routine.
So do you lift and go to jiu-jitsu?
I lift in the morning, jiu-jitsu in the afternoon.
Yeah, I did that too. It's tough. It's
hard, but yeah.
Do both for sure. Are you do mostly gi or no gi these days?
I do gi.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do both. I mean, the first like 5 or 6 years I did only gi. And then in like 2020, I was training for an MMA fight. And that's when I switched to doing no-gi.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back because I'm like, these guys are, the game like evolved in the past 6 years where it's like doing all this crazy shit with like the lapels and the belts and this and that, the collar. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, I've done a bunch of stuff. I've done boxing for some time. I did some wrestling, but I like jiu-jitsu a lot. I've done it like I said, close to 2 years at this point. Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of committed to it, but I definitely want to start working in like some other things, like just MMA maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, a whole different beast. It's a whole different thing. I did a couple of MMA fights.
Yeah.
But the thing about jiu-jitsu too is one thing is it teaches you how to learn, and it teaches you how to like, because you understand that first of all, like there's levels to anything, right? In any kind of a discipline in life, there's levels. So like in Section 8, I could go start my own, I can go, buy my first rental property and figure it out for myself. I can watch YouTube videos. Right. But then there's like a black belt in this, like yourself, who's been in the game for a long time. And that I know that if I were to work with the black belt, my progress is going to go way faster. Right. So like that aspect of like how you learn stuff and just like, the focused time you spend learning stuff, it applies to just about everything.
No, 100%. That's why I like doing private sessions too in BJJ, just because it speeds up the learning curve. Yeah. Instead of maybe taking a few months to learn, or maybe like a few weeks to learn like a move or a choke or whatever the case may be, I could learn in one session, be pretty much proficient in that specific, thing that I learned.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, privates and the mentorship, like the one-on-one, I think the best way to learn something is one-on-one. And the best way to learn something, first of all, is to have a mentor, right? But a type of mentorship, like a one-on-one mentorship, is really so valuable because you get to move at your speed.
Correct.
Whereas if you go to a class with 15, 20 other people,
Right.
now you're moving at the speed of the slowest person in the class.
Right.
And so, and then you partner with someone that might be a lower belt or whatever, but you actually get to work with the person.
Exactly. And then
So, I mean,
you don't skip steps initially. You learn everything. If you have any questions, obviously, you could get it broken down right there and then. Versus some people will walk in, obviously in a class, especially if you're relatively new, you're white and blue belt, you might skip a few steps, which are crucial, right? And that could be the defining difference.
Yeah. And that's really the value of a mentor. I mean, what has mentorship meant for your journey?
I mean, for me, in terms of like me working with individuals, there's like hundreds of people's lives that have just gone changed. You know what I'm saying? People that are working 9 to 5s, right? That didn't even think it was possible to get out. That are not just financially free. They do what they want, right? So like I said, it just accelerates the process. It takes you from maybe not knowing what you're doing, not knowing there's a way out, to streamlining everything and get it broken down for somebody that's already done it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. And what about like your mentors? Have you invested in mentors? Do you have mentors for yourself?
I've done a bunch of different things. I mean, I've done fix and flips in the past where I learned from, specific mentors. I've done burrs where I learned from a bunch of different mentors. I did like some trading a while ago where I learned from, a few different mentors. So you're always learning, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of whether you're 15 years old or, 80 years old, you're always going to continue learning. So I think mentors are extremely important because it allows you to get up to speed because you could either learn from like one of two ways. You either learn from your mistakes, or you learn from other people's mistakes. And I'm a big advocate of learning from other people's mistakes because it's cheaper and it's quicker. So if you can have somebody break down the process for you that's already done it, been through it, and they know the solution, then you're going to save time, energy, and effort through the process. So that's what I think personally.
Yeah, 100%. And have you spent a lot of money? Have you invested a lot of money yourself on mentors?
Of course, man. I mean, I invest a lot of money into myself just because I know that the ROI is always going to be there. Even if I learn something minuscule from a mentor, I know that the ROI is still going to be there. Because, I mean, think about it like this. If you fuck up on a rental property, a Section 8 rental, you buy the wrong house, you could lose 20 grand. Relatively easy. You choose the wrong property manager and they end up messing you up, or they just take too long, you could lose another 5 or 10 G's. If you don't know how to run through the Section 8 process, you could lose another 5, 10, 15 G's. You invest in the wrong area, you could lose another 5, 10, 15 G's. So that's why people come to me and want to get started in the mentorship, just because they don't want to run into those issues. They just want to do it right the first time. So that's what I think about having a mentor. It allows you to do it right pretty much the first time.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time that you invested in like an expensive coaching program?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I've done a bunch of different things in the past. I don't know about the first time, but I've worked with a few different individuals that are not big on social media. But like when I did my first burr, obviously I wanted to learn how to do it proficiently. I didn't want to run into any issues. But yeah, I worked with a mentor.
Okay. No, I was just thinking because I remember the first time that I actually invested in a mentor program, I dropped 25 grand. And I was like, before that, I never understood the value of mentorship. I never really paid a mentor. I never invested in coaching, never invested in myself. And then that's like having to explain that to you can't even really talk about that to your friends or your family that don't have that kind of money. You spent that money on a coach, on a mentor, on a program. That makes no sense. And so that's a whole different experience. But the cool thing about that is once you actually invest that in yourself, then you see how you can get the ROI on it, right? And then since then, I've gone on to like 30K, like 10K, 5K, like it's nothing. Buy programs like it's no
100%. Because you're always gonna learn something. It's really like, obviously it's relative, but if you lose a few $1,000s on a mentor, you're not really losing because you're always learning stuff.
Yeah.
And that's I guess you could say invaluable. It's super important. Like I invest in mentors. I guess you could say like even like a BJJ coach or like a private session is pretty much a mentor. So I actively invest and mentors that teach me things that would take me much longer otherwise. Like if I just went on YouTube and I tried to do BJJ, I'm not gonna figure it out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's gonna take me a long ass time, just to excel in even like relatively small things. Versus if you're actively doing it with someone and you're getting it broken down step by step, you're gonna be able to move a lot quicker and learn from their mistakes.
Yeah. 100%. Cool. So what's next for you as far as your business? Are you going to go to your coaching program? Do you get more properties? Anything like a milestone you're working for?
Yeah, like I said, I'm working on a big portfolio at this point. It's over 80 units, so just continuously scaling. I want to get to 250 doors by the end of the year. Obviously, we're still working with new clients and helping them scale. Working on social media as well, just giving some insight, free insight to individuals. I'm also trying to work on a few different softwares that, help people find Section 8 rentals much easier.
Are you making those softwares from scratch, or what are you doing?
Yeah, building it from scratch. Additionally, I am working on a fund, to be able to put capital together and, just buy hundreds of Section 8 rentals. Mm-hmm. So that's just a couple things in the works at this point.
Okay, nice. What's it like building the software?
I'm not a dev personally, so I'm kind of just like giving my ideas, what I have in mind, just like having the dev, I guess, build it.
Right. Okay. And that's going to be to help people to find Section 8 properties.
Find Section 8 roads. I already have a software right now, but it's just like we're building on top of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, so we're coming to an end, but let me ask you a couple of questions I'd like to end with. So one thing is like if you could have like a billboard, right, in the middle of Times Square where all people could see it, what's a message that you would want like the world to see or people to understand?
I would say like a few different things. Like number one is just get started. I think that's one of the biggest fears for a lot of people, just putting that first foot down. People overthink shit before they actually do anything, and they end up never getting started. Like people will come to me and be like, hey, I want to buy a rental property, right? I want to change my life, but they don't get started. And then 6 months later, when it hurts even more that they don't have more time, they still haven't gotten started. And they keep postponing it, and prices go up in real estate, and they end up never getting started because they see prices continuously go up, and they're always waiting for that perfect moment to get started. They're waiting for the perfect price points that are never going to end up hitting. So I think one of the big things is just get started. The second big thing is, I would say, delegate to elevate. That's like one of the biggest things that I always say, and it sounds like a bit cliche, but it's super important. If you know how to delegate, I don't think there's anything that could stop you. You know what I'm saying? Just giving roles to individuals that are proficient in them, or that could do them better than you, could save your time and make you a lot more money.
Yeah.
Like I could be my own property manager, right? I can manage the properties that I have in Ohio, Louisiana, but I don't. I delegate it to individuals that could do it for me so I could focus on the back end of my business. I could find my own rental properties, which I do sometimes, but I could also delegate that to a realtor that's actively scouring the internet all day and looking at properties and talking to wholesalers. So I'm saving my time, energy, and effort. You know what I'm saying?
Delegate to elevate. Love it. Another one I like to ask you is, what's a challenge that you'd like to challenge people to do? So it's like, if there's someone out there that maybe interested in getting started, or even just improving their life in general, what's something that you would challenge somebody to do?
I guess like I could say like be disciplined, but there's like more into it than that. Like it's not only about being disciplined. Like how do you become disciplined, right? Maybe build a routine. Like I challenge somebody to build a routine and stick to it for 60 to 90 days. Because you can build a habit within 21 days of doing something consistently. And I think building a routine in my life has probably been one of the most, probably one of the most important things that I've done in my life. So build a routine, stick with it, and just be disciplined. Because if you are disciplined and you are willing to get started additionally, I think there's nothing that could stop you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you learn that from? Like how to do discipline? Something you discover for yourself, or your family taught you?
Just multiple. I mean, everything comes from influence, right? So Probably some of it came from my family. Some of it came from individuals that I'm surrounded with. Some of it came from other mentors.
Is there a certain part of your routine that is really impactful? So like the gym, obviously that's important. Anything else?
The gym, jiu-jitsu, like maybe like my eating habits. I try to stay relatively healthy as well. Like the entire thing, honestly.
Yeah, staying dialed in.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, if someone's interested in like your program, how could they get involved? What do you have?
Yeah, you can message me on Instagram at Section 8 Kareem, or you can go to section8training.com, check us out, apply to get started, and obviously you book a call with me and my team, and we'll show you how to buy your first rental property in under 8 weeks with anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 down, and get your first Section 8 tenant approved, ready to go, walk you through the entire process.
Love it. Love it. Your first Section 8 rental property in 8 to 10 weeks. At least 8 weeks, under 8 weeks, whatever. Love it, man. Awesome. Cool. Anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to throw out there?
That's it from me. Any other questions for me?
No, I think we're good, man. It's been awesome. It's been a great experience. Learned a lot about Section 8.
Yeah, man.
I love my youth, so thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, appreciate you. All right, likewise. Thank you so much.
All right, subscribe, like, make sure you follow Karim and Kareem. And yeah, see you in the next one. Thanks.